Hi everyone, Harris here with the iDownload blog. Apple's been making plus size phones or max size phones or Pro Max size phones for several years, many years since the iPhone 6 Plus, but for many years it was always just a larger version of the smaller phone. Didn't really improve the experience that much. With the iPhone XS Max, it actually made a phone that was bigger but brought down the bezels and made it manageable footprint, or at least a lot of screen for the size. And Apple's continued to do that since and further improved it. And now we have the iPhone 11 Pro Max, and it's a phone that I'm actually okay with using that is this size because it has the screen to back it up, whereas before it didn't. But of course, this is something that Samsung and other manufacturers have been doing for years with their phones, putting in big screens with smaller bezels. The Note 10 is still definitely that phone, a phone that has absolutely tiny bezels and a lot of screen, whereas the iPhone 11 Pro Max has pretty small bezels as well, but still a bigger footprint. So we're going to compare these two phones and the user experience between them. We'll see which one might be right for you. All right, so first I just want to talk about pricing with these two because they actually are a lot different. So I'm a big fan of doing trade-ins with different phones when I buy them. If I've got a phone lying around, sometimes it's nice to just trade it in, and they do different things with their trade-ins and purchase options between these two phones. So Apple will just do a trade-in for an iPhone, and their rates aren't too bad. You can get $600 for an iPhone XS Max, $500 for a XS, $400 for an iPhone X, and $220 for an iPhone 8. Now, if you try to sell in or trade in an iPhone with your Galaxy purchase, Samsung gives you a lot less. Instead of $600, they give you $440. Instead of $500, they give you $330. Instead of $400, they give you $260. Instead of $220, they give you $160. But that's fair. Why would Samsung give you a lot for an Apple phone? But you can get $440 for an S10 Plus, $330 for an S10, or $260 for a Note 9, which are not great rates. I think Apple does a little bit better with their trade-in values with the phones after the initial selling period, so that's important to note. However, the buying options are vastly different. So I have the Note 10 here, which is actually the cheaper brother of the Note 10 Plus. I'm more of a fan of the Note 10 because it's a little bit more compact. However, I think a lot of Note users will be getting the Note 10 Plus. Regardless, you can add about $150 to everything I'm saying for the Note 10 Plus, but the Note 10 starts at $949 for 256 gigabytes. The iPhone 11 Pro Max starts at $1049 for 64 gigs, and you can add money on top to make it 256 gigs. So already the Note 10 is cheaper. So let's assume you're buying the 256 gig Note 10 and the 256 gig iPhone 11 Pro Max. Here are the differences. So with the Note 10, with the iPhone XS Max trade-in, you get 4 months of YouTube Premium and 6 months of Spotify for free with your purchase. But you also get a Samsung Galaxy A50 smartphone, which is I think $300 to retail. You get that for free with this purchase. At least at this point, Samsung always has really cool perks when you buy their phones. You get a free phone when you do this, when you buy it unlocked. That's kind of crazy, and that comes out to $509. Now do the same thing for the iPhone 11 Pro Max, the same capacity and the same phone trade-in. You do get a free year of Apple TV Plus with your Apple purchase, which is great, but you don't get a free phone, of course. You don't get the extra subscriptions, and it's still $150 more expensive. So that's just something to note. The Galaxy is definitely cheaper to get and comes with more perks when you buy it. Of course, iPhone's resale value stays much higher, so if you're going to be using this for a long time, this is going to sell for a higher price, which can offset it at times, but at least up front, the Note 10 definitely has that advantage, at least up front, of lower price and better perks. Okay, now let's get into the phones themselves. I want to start with one advantage of the Note 10. So you can see that I'm pretty much just holding screen, and this has about a 91% screen to body ratio. About 91% of this front is screen. Whereas the iPhone 11 Pro is still pretty impressive, around 84%. That's not shabby at all, but it has that notch, whereas Samsung just has the little cutout, the hole punch for the camera. This feels a lot better in the hand in terms of footprint. This is smaller in every dimension than the iPhone. You stack them up side by side. This just fits in the pocket a lot better, fits in one hand a lot better. Again, this is the smaller version than the Note 10 Plus, but it does have just barely a smaller screen than the iPhone, but just much smaller footprint. This feels like the future. That's really great, and Samsung really takes advantage of that body size by putting in the biggest screen it really can. That's something I noticed. That's something that makes the Note 10 feel really cool and feels like it's just really utilizing its resources. But to give the iPhone credit, its rounder and bigger and kind of thicker sides and a little bit more bezels does make it ultimately a little bit more comfortable in the hand. The Note 10 has tapered, curved edges, which are slightly less comfortable in the hand because it feels like it's constantly just curving away from your hand when it's in your palm. It's not a big deal and you'll get used to it, but day to day I do prefer the feel and the comfort of the iPhone, but there's really nothing that beats just how compact this phone is. You're getting a whole lot of screen with this device. Up to you which you prefer, but I think the Note 10 definitely has that advantage. Now jumping back to the iPhone, and an advantage it has is battery life. So compared to the Note 10, this does have a bigger battery, which makes sense because it is a bigger phone, and the battery life does last longer. The Note 10 has pretty decent battery life, and because it has a 1080p screen versus the Note 10 with a higher resolution display, you'll probably get through a full day, and it comes with fast charging, it comes with fast wireless charging, and it's not a bad deal. The iPhone 11 Pro Max is killer. You'll get a day and a half, maybe close to 2 days depending on your usage of battery with this. It's very impressive. Apple's done really good work this year with their battery life, so it is an advantage to the iPhone versus the Note 10, and even the Note 10 Plus with its bigger battery has still shown to be worse than the iPhone's battery in different battery tests such as on PhoneBuff. So that's something to keep in mind. And the iPhone also this year now gives you a USB-C charger and a USB-C to Lightning cable, so that is always great to have. The iPhone also has the camera advantage. So these two phones have pretty much the same setup. You've got your standard angle, your wide angle, and your 2x telephoto zoom, and they both have their pros and cons, but ultimately I think that almost everyone agrees that the iPhone's camera, especially this year, is just better. I think Apple's done more to improve their cameras than Samsung did, and I think that the iPhone's camera is just excellent in terms of photo and video, front and rear camera. It's probably the most consistent. I think that out of the box, just shooting pictures, run and gun type things, the iPhone's camera is so good. Now the Note 10 does have more customization. You have a manual mode, which if you know what you're doing can be pretty cool, especially with messing with the focus. You also have more features and gimmicky stuff that Samsung likes to throw in, including a portrait video mode, which is kind of cool in certain circumstances. Samsung obviously is going to throw in more features with the camera. That's something they do, and it does have its advantages, but I think day to day, the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the 11 Pro just has a better camera. And for most people who just want to take a great picture, this has that. But at the same time, if you're someone who just wants a good picture in general, both of these have amazing cameras. So if you're not totally concerned with camera quality and you just want very good, these both have very good. But if you're looking for the best, that's probably going to the iPhone in this circumstance. But here's where I really think these two phones are different. The Note 10 feels like a power user phone, whereas the iPhone 11 Pro Max feels like a bigger version of the iPhone 11 Pro. There, I said it. This feels like a power user's phone, this doesn't. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but for a lot of people who are looking for the most phone that they can get in their hand, in their pocket, the Note 10, and especially the Note 10 Plus, is going to have that. So no, there is no headphone jack on this. There's no removable battery. That's been years since they've had that. And even no expandable storage on the smaller version, but you can get it on the Note 10 Plus. But of course, it starts at 256 gigabytes of storage to begin with. And the software is really what allows this to take it to the next level. Android is much better for larger phones because for years they've had multitasking, and Samsung throws in their own levels of multitasking, including like a floating window mode, so I could have a video or a Chrome tab or a note opened up, just floating wherever I want it, any size I want it, while I'm opening up other applications and browsing through my phone, looking at photos or finding that number or contact information. That's really, really handy on a screen that is over 6 inches like the Note 10. You also get great native Android split screen support. So I can have two apps open side by side or top and bottom so that I can simply and easily compare information or scroll through two things at once or research while I type my paper. That's something you're not getting on the iPhone. With the iPhone, you're constantly doing that back and forth on apps, which every iPhone user is kind of used to but doesn't love, and Apple really needs to step it up with multitasking. You do get some multitasking in quotes with the iPhone 11 Pro Max when it comes to like settings and messages. If you go into landscape, you can have more elements kind of side by side, but that doesn't really compete with the Note 10 when it comes to true multitasking that you can get with Android. That's a really great feature. And then additionally, the S Pen. Maybe not something you'll use every day, but I think the S Pen is really nice. I'm a fan of styluses and stuff like the S Pen. It's great for document editing. If you need to jot down a quick note on the lock screen, that's something you can absolutely do with this. If you want to handwrite your notes, if you forget your pen and pencil for class. You can annotate documents more fully and efficiently with something like this. You can do a live translate mode. You can do better screenshots. There's just a lot of features that you can do and a lot of technology that Samsung has built into this pen, including using it as like a clicker and a lot of other things, a camera shutter. I think for a pro user, somebody who's wanting to do a lot of work on the road and sometimes has to rely on their phone, Samsung has that ready for you on the Note 10. Apple still has an incredible phone and incredible software, but it just doesn't have the multitasking and the pro user features such as the S Pen and the Samsung Android software on here. It also has a cool feature of reverse wireless charging. So the fact that I can charge my AirPods using my Note 10 is just stupid cool, or your Galaxy Buds, or I can charge my iPhone using this. That's super cool. You can't do that on an iPhone. You could be that guy that saves somebody's day by reverse wireless charging. The decision between these two phones is really what you're looking for. If you're looking for a better resale value, better performance over time, if you're looking for that iOS infrastructure to use with your Apple Watch and your AirPods more efficiently, looking for more software updates and more support in general, the iPhone has that. It's a great phone. I think it's more comfortable to hold. There's more accessories for it. The camera and battery are stellar. But if you're really looking for a pro user phone, this has that. Multitasking is really great. Adding widgets to your home screen is nice to have. The S Pen is useful. It has a lot of pro user features. Anyway, those are my thoughts between these two phones. Let me know which one you like better, which one you prefer down in the comment section below. But that's about it for this video.